Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us again in another masterpiece in progress. This is our painting today. It's called Watering Pots. This, I wanted to paint some pots and I saw these pots sitting in front of somebody's house. It's like a water fountain. It wasn't on or anything. So I took the picture because I liked how the shapes of them were. They weren't this colorful, kind of used my imagination there. So this is a fun painting, and what we have here is 5 pots, and we'll talk about this. You're going to need 11 by 14 canvas. Now I've gone ahead and painted this with yellow ochre, and I've already put my pattern on. And before we get started, let's go ahead and just talk about that pattern. Because you can paint that background anytime and then put your pattern on. Now, in your printout, when you go to print this out, you will get two paintings or two printouts. They overlap. So if you look here, the bottom of this pot is up here. So if you put these together, best you can, you will come up with your painting. So you're going to want to tape this off right along there. You're going to need your transfer paper, your graphite paper, which this is what I used. And essentially what I did, because I had a smaller piece this time, I taped here, taped my pattern, taped it all up here, and then I was just able to move that down. What other things are we going to need today? Of course, we'll have our brushes. And what paints are we going to use? Is the next question, right? Well, we have lots of paints and we have lots of fun things. So we're going to start out. We have our normal Deco Art paints. We have our first one is the Snow White or Titanium White. We are going to be using this True Ochre quite a bit. As soon as I grab the right one, had it in my hand. True Ochre. Honey Brown. We're going to do some mixing on some of these pots. We're going to do some washes today. I have Burnt Sienna. I have Lamp Black. And again, any of these colors, if you don't have Deco Art paints, you can use any of the paints. I also have a Georgia Clay, Cad Yellow. I have my Payne's Gray and a Tuscan Red. Now, I also have this Splendid Gold. It's a metallic and it does get used a little bit down here in this pot, down there. All right, I am going to pull this aside. Don't know why my light just does not want to last up there. I do want to keep this kind of handy so that I can refer back to it. All right, so we have 5 pots that we're going to paint. But when we paint, we want to paint things in the background first. Now, in your instructions, and or your supply list, I don't always put instructions, but I did put some steps in this one. There were a couple reasons for that. Number one, this is my 3rd time I'm painting it. First creation, then I painted it for a video that did not turn out. So we're doing it again. So, and this is just a little bit more complicated here. But as you can see, we're going to do the entire background with the True Ochre. And I used my largest paintbrush. We put on the pattern. And then here's what I did with the pots and the bricks. Now, I probably should have said, let's paint the bricks first and then what pots we were going to do. But I just put all of those colors in there. Brushes. I'm using my standard brushes here. I have a 2 round, 1/2 inch, I have a 4, and I have my 3/4. I am missing my 8 because I have to replace that one because it came apart on me. So we'll just do without that one. But you paint with what brushes makes sense for you. Make sure you have some napkins. And let's go ahead and get started. I think when I have painted this before, I've probably started with pots, but I'm going to start with the bricks because it only makes sense to me. So the bricks are the Georgia clay and Tuscan red. So we're going to start out with the Georgia clay. Now, typically, I've got my plate here. Typically, I have all of my paints out on my plate, but it is summer here in Arizona. I've got my ceiling fan going, and these paints seem to dry pretty quickly. So I'm just going to start with the paints that I'm working with, which are the red and the Georgia clay. I am going to use my 1/2 inch. Now I could essentially probably use my 3/4, but I'm going to use my 1/2 inch. And also I believe in the pattern, you'll have this line that goes down there. That's going to be shadow in here. And I just kind of put it on my, I have my water. I am dipping it in, and then I dip it off on my napkin, and I'm going to go into my Georgia clay. And I'm going to come right along here and start putting this in. And clearly I had too much water, and that happens, because guess what I forgot to do? I dipped it on my, not my napkin, so. And again, the reason I'm painting the bricks first is because everything else has to be behind this pot. All these pots sit on top of these bricks. So it's probably easier to paint those. And you want to cover up those lines. And the first one, I did not have, you could barely see my lines. So that's why I used new transfer paper. And again, I just have whatever I have on my brush at this point. And as you know, I kind of work in layers, so I don't put all that paint on there at once. I actually will let that dry and then come back and do more. Now this down in here is also Georgia clay, so I am just going to go ahead and lay that down here. I'm going to go back in. Now I'm going to pick up some of my red. Just going to come right on top of that brick. Let that kind of meld in. If it's different colors, that's all right. These are all bricks all down in here. Again, whatever's on my brush here, which is a little bit of combination between the Georgia clay and the Tuscan red. If you ever look at bricks, there are a lot of different colors in those bricks, most of them. Going back and picking up some more Georgia clay, and I'm just going to grab right on my brush some of that red. If it gets too red, well, I can wipe it off and pick up more Georgia clay. And again, kind of what's on my brush. Get as close to those pots as you possibly can. Now I am painting on a real canvas opposed to canvas pads, so I do want to make sure that I go around the corner. I decided after painting this twice on the pads that I like the painting enough that I will probably hang it on my wall. So I used a regular canvas. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to come right along here and kind of smooth my edges a little bit. I want some of these bricks to be a little bit longer. That one's longer, so this one's got to be a little bit longer. Same thing over here. Just going to square that up. All right. Now the shadow is a little bit of burnt sienna, which is this brown. So I am going to pick up that. As soon as I get it unplugged here, there we go. Also needed to kind of check my recording. Makes it a little bit challenging when you're doing this alone. Now, I'm going to wet my brush before I pick up this sienna. I'm going to get some of that water, and I'm just going to go over this right here, smooth some of this out a little bit more. And what I'm looking for here is just, first of all, I want to get really close to these pots. Don't want anything of that background showing. And I know this pot's going to be darker. This one's going to have Payne's gray in it, so it might be a little bit challenging there. Right up in there. All right. Now, not a lot. I have not cleaned my brush. Just going in and just dropping some of that shadow on here. Okay, looks like I need a little bit more than that. And I'm hoping you can see this with my light going out. Show that burnt sienna. Again, I went right up underneath and right up next to these pots, because that's just that shadow color in here. And notice I'm just kind of getting the on my brush, the paint on my brush, and this is what I call laying it in there. I just lay that paint down and allow it to seep into the canvas. Now, these lines are just, as far as the shadow, approximately. Did I pick up burnt sienna? I did. But that's exactly what I have as the shadow. Seems darker in my original. But we're going to start with that. We can always come back and add and make it a little bit darker in there. We're going to let that dry up. And then I'm going to pick up lamp black, and we're going to paint the insides of these. Now, let's just talk briefly about the pots. You can see I have these numbered. So the top pot is 1, 2, the middle part in here is 3. Guess I forgot to number that one, 4 and 5. Kind of ignore these lines in here. My pattern that I used was the original, and then I changed something in that pattern, so I had to make up a pot down there. But we are going to paint number 3 first, in 1 second. We'll probably paint 3 or number 4 after that, but let's just kind of see how it goes. But I'm going to pick up that lamp black and shake that bottle and put it on my plate. And the one thing I like to do is I like to paint the inside of these pots. Now, not cleaning my brush because I'm going on with black, so it's not a big deal. But I'm going to come right along here and get up right next to that line and paint the insides of these pots. And I'm sticking with this 1/2 inch brush. You can use whatever size brush is comfortable for you. You may want to use a larger brush. Yeah, I'm going to stick with a 1/2 inch. I may even go down to a smaller brush when I get in to those other pots up there. And what I'll do is we'll just get this one done. No, actually, between everything that we've gotten done right now, we should have some nice looking painting starting here. And it really doesn't matter which one. We're going to leave this one to last, because the inside of this is going to be a little bit different. So all right, so this is, I covered the numbers. Yes, I did. Number 2. But you can look at your pattern and see which ones are, just think about, we just started at the top and went down. Now I am painting on, I have totally reset up my studio a little bit different. So I'm trying to get used to this new setup. I think I need a new stool that's a little bit higher than the one I have. This is my Bob Ross easel setup. I used to teach Bob Ross in my home studio in Phoenix, but I have not done that here in Sun City. I think we're going to take this whole, now your pattern, as I said on this pot down here, will be much better than mine. In the original photo, there was some type of rock or petrified wood or something, and I just wasn't feeling it. So I just threw a pot in there. All right, I'm just going to wipe out my brush a little bit. And the reason I'm only wiping it out, I'm going to pick up a little bit of this burnt sienna, and it's going to become a little bit darker. And right underneath this pot is going to be a shadow. It looks like I forgot right in here. That's going to be my shadow color. And matter of fact, I might even just go in here just a little bit Not a lot of paint. It's almost like a dry brush in here just to kind of make that a little bit darker, especially up around close to those pots. There we go. Don't want them to be solid because I'm going to leave a little dimension there. And I'm wiping out my brush, and I want to pick up that Georgia clay. And if it's a little bit of dark on there, I'm okay because this is actually going to be dark in here. Should be a little bit darker. So this brush in here has a little bit of the Georgia clay on it. It has a little bit of the black and a little of the burnt sienna all in there. I think that's where my pot's going to be. All right, so there's a little shadow there. And again, it's different when I swear every time I put on the pattern, it's either too high, too low. I think I got it just right. But we're just going to put a little shadow there. All right. I'm going to dip my brush in my water, and I'm going to clean it off on my napkin. As I said, I'm not used to this new setup yet. There went my palette. All right, so let's talk about, we'll come back and do those. But I think I want to start with pot number, we want to start with pot number 3. So I am going to switch brushes. I am going to go down to a smaller brush. And when I clean my brushes, I go into my water and I clean it off on my napkin because, you know, even swishing it in water, I'm not getting all that paint out of there. You've got to work it. And you can see I use my napkin quite a bit. First pot's going to be pretty straightforward. It is Payne's Gray and white. So I'm going to take my Payne's Gray, which when you put it on your palette, it almost looks black. But then you begin to mix it. And as I said, I'm going to go down to my smaller brush in here, which I'd rather be using my 8, but I'm going to use the 4. Oh, and I want some titanium white. Now, the chevron pattern in here is going to be white, and I tried to put the white in here, and it'll be white in here, and then this will be the gray. Nope, I said that wrong. This will be gray, white, gray, white, gray. Sometimes don't listen to what I say, just look at the picture and paint what you see. All right, getting my paintbrush wet. I am going to go in. I'm going to go into straight white first. And I'm going to start to paint right in here. Now, this may take more than one coat, and that's okay. This is kind of like painting by number, huh? Gotta stay in the lines, which I'm not a very good person staying in lines. As you can see, I like sometimes just getting in there and letting it flow. This will definitely need another coat, and that's okay. It's better to put 2 good coats and be happy with it than 1 big bad coat. All right, this is going to be my Payne's Gray. I'm going to go down here. do this side first. So it's going to be a little bit easier because my crazy pot over here. On yours, you should hopefully be all right. But I mentioned I did some rearranging of my studio, and it's like, okay, in my trying to be more organized, sometimes I can't find what I did with stuff. And that's okay. I hope you guys have enjoyed these videos. I like it a lot. I miss seeing everybody. But hopefully we can see some type of normalcy in our near future. I don't think I ever want to live 2020 again. Saw a hilarious post on Facebook today, and it had a picture of a spaceship, and it said, by November 2020, this is what we should expect. I loved it. But I will go on record and say this is the craziest year I've ever lived in my entire life. And you know, I'm older than a lot of you, and I've lived through some things, but I don't quite remember. I mean, in the 60s, lots of things were going on. All right. I may need one more coat. I definitely need one more coat of white down here. But after I get this coat on, I am going to switch over and do my Payne's Gray. And again, we can always come back and touch this up again. But you'll just want to make sure that your brush is clean. All right, I'm not cleaning my brush. I'm just going to go in and I'm going to start pulling some Payne's Gray out here. Now, Payne's Gray is pretty dark. I'm going to pick up some white and I'm just going to put it right in there. And I want to get enough color so I can cover my jar here. All right, so I'm going to start at the top here, go right up to this line. I don't know what that line's there for. I think we're painting right over it. Man, this dries so quickly. And just see how we push that brick right back. The problem is you just can't mix a whole pile of this because it'll dry so quickly. See, it's a little bit lighter in there, but that's all right. This is why I'm doing this smaller brush right here. A lot of small areas. This is even going to be darker, so we'll paint that part of that pot last. Moving right along to the next area. Now, this is where we can kind of correct. There's a better point. Kind of covered up that point a little bit, but this is where you can come back with the next color and fix any of those issues that you're not happy with. Again, I'm going right up into that white just a tiny bit so I get a nice clean corner. As you're mixing your paint, try whatever color you started with, get as close to that as you possibly can. No, it's not going to be perfect, but that's all right because as light hits it in different areas, like this is a little bit darker over here, I'm okay with that because it's a little bit shadowy over here. Light would be hitting it in different ways. All right, again, here is opportune time to fix a couple of those. Now down toward the bottom, if this is a little darker, that's okay because we've got two pots sitting right there in the shadows, right beside it. And go right over, there you go, right over top of that. You can see why we paint these last or first, and you'll really see it when we paint these two pots right on top of it. All right, before I go to straight Payne's Gray, which be for the inside of that pot, I think I want to go over the white one more time. So I will rinse my brush. I will wipe it off on my napkin. Sometimes it just takes a couple because I went the super white. And I'm going to go into an area that's still clean here. Again, just one more time. Go right over top of that. I really hope that you guys can see this really well because my light brand new battery just went out. I don't know why those are glowing. And I have all of my blinds pulled because I have 3 huge windows and sliding glass doors in my studio, but it gets so warm. So it's a little bit darker than it normally is. Trying to keep cold. All right. I'm going to wipe out my brush. And I'm going to go into straight Payne's Gray. Not a whole bunch, but we're going to come right in here. And this is the inside of that pot. I'm going to get as close to that gray as possible without messing it up. I think I scraped some of that paint off. Working it so hard. All right. I think I'm happy so far. Gonna step back just a little bit. All right, we have a pot done. Yay! All right, next one we're going to do, I'm going to switch back to my 1/2" brush. I am cleaning it. We're going to do pot number 1. So, yes, we're going to do pot number 1. So let's talk about pot number 1. Or I guess we could even do number 4. Let's do number 4 because we just want to make sure we got this one done and we want to paint this one before this one. This will be our last pot. This is my favorite pot. All right, so let's talk about number 4 down here. And this is a good one because we're going to do something different that you're probably not used to. And it's called a wash. But first what we're going to do is pot number 4 is the ochre cad yellow. So I'm going to take my cad yellow. And again, as I said, I'm only putting these on my plate when I'm ready for them. So cad yellow and the yellow ochre or true ochre for Deco Arts. probably need a little bit more than that. And we're going to cover this entire pot. Now, I'm going to pick up a little bit of yellow and a little bit of the ochre, both of these on my brush. So I've just kind of brush mixed them in here. And we're going to come right along here. Now you're going to say, well, that's not much different. And that doesn't look like the pot in the picture. Oh, but it will. It will. I did not do a good job getting close in there, but that's all right. And we really don't need a whole bunch of paint on here because guess what's underneath there? The yellow ochre. That's why I added the yellow into it. But, and again, if I miss a spot or something, it's not a big deal. So we're just getting paint on there. Now, I'm going to pick up some straight yellow and go right along here. And I'm not worried. I kind of got my peanut butter and my jelly. That's okay. Because guess what? I can go back in and clean that up. All right. Now we're going to take and do a wash. We're going to let that dry just a minute. Now let's talk about what a wash is and what it is not. So a wash essentially is a lot of water and a little paint. But we don't want the water dripping or anything like this. So what we're going to do, that's still a little wet there. And I do want that dry. So let's go and while we have our ochre and stuff, we're going to do the same color up here. And again, once you see what we're going to do, it'll be like, but those are the same colors. How are these pots going to be different colors? I can't wait to show you. Now, sometimes you get a switch. I'm going to switch to my invisible number 8, which I don't have. So I'll have to switch to number 4. And I'm going to come right in here because I do want to get right up in there. Going to pick up some straight cad yellow there. And again, don't worry too much about that black because guess what? All right. So we're going to let that dry. This should be pretty dry down there. Switching back here, wiping out the color. All right. So I'm going to take my brush. I'm going to dip it in water. Make sure your water's clean. Mine is fairly clean. And I'm going to go into this Georgia. And I'm going to get quite a bit of water on there. Now I've only gone back once. I want to show you. You don't want this dripping, but all you're going to do is come right along here and put this wash in. You can see it's very thin in color. But look how pretty that is. And where you have darks, it'll be dark. And where your lighters are, it'll be lighter. Yay! Now when we do this other pot, we're going to do a different color of a wash. So we have the same undertones, but just a different colored wash. And I'm only gone to that water just the one time. We just want to make sure we kind of cover everything up. Then we're going to come in here with, if you've got any burnt umber left, I'll wipe off my brush. I will need a tiny bit of burnt umber. Now we could have washed that in red, we could have washed that in lots of different colors, but I really am digging that Georgia clay. Now I'm going to come in here with just a little bit of sienna, or yeah, burnt sienna. Okay, when you put paint on your plate and you don't know which one it is. All right, I'm going to come right along here with this burnt sienna. I did not go in any water. It's still quite wet there. And I just went underneath there. So it's got all of the water out of my brush. Still using my 1/2 inch. Go into the burnt sienna. And there's just enough still water in there. I get a nice shadow underneath that pot right there. And I can pick up a little bit of my yellow and just come right in here. Not a lot of paint. I think I want this just a little bit bigger in there. There we go. Just a little bit of yellow. Here and some hair. All right, I'm digging that. Now we might come back and do something different with that, but we're moving on to the top pot. And we have some honey brown. Honey brown. Right. Cheer to gore honey brown. All right. Put way too much honey brown on my plate. All right, I am cleaning out my brush. I almost need another thing of water, don't I? All right, wet my brush. I'm gonna go into the honey brown. And again, you don't want this to drip, but it's pretty soupy. And now we're gonna come right up here and just put that color on. These are called washes. So less color and more water to kind of make it almost transparent. And as I did before, I am switching this brush just so I can get in there a little bit better. And we'll have to come back in and fix our brown. Now, if you have a clean napkin, here's what I want you to do. Or a paper towel. I just have a piece of paper towel and a paintbrush in my mouth. Piece of paper towel that I'm just going to come right in here, and I just want to pick up some of that color. And the only reason I'm doing that is I'm just trying to give that pot some different colors. Now, I'm going to go back into that raw sienna, or burnt sienna, I'm sorry. And just like I did below, these marks up here, we're going to come right around here. Now, again, a little paint, wiping out my brush on my napkin, because there's a lot of paint on there. And then I'm going to go into straight yellow. I'm going to go back down to my small invisible number 8, which is number 4. As you guys can tell, I'd really prefer that 8, but gotta get one. And I'm just with my cad yellow putting in some highlights here. And notice I'm just kind of very, very lightly. I love this painting, by the way. While I have a brush, I am going to do 2 things. Well, no, I'll just do it at the end because I'll have to fix these 2 too. All right, fun times. Okay, let's work down here at this number 5 pot. And he is going to be burnt sienna, which is a color that we've already used. Shake, shake, shake. And the highlight color will be probably the honey brown. And when I say highlight, because we'll need to highlight in here, but we're going to take our brush and we're going to come right in here. Make sure as much as that water is out of there as possible. And this spot is pretty dark. And we still have some other work to do. Now, we're not done with the background here. But I have so much fun with these pots that I notice when I paint this, I go in the direction of that pot because these are round. Switching to that other brush, which is smaller. Sometimes I wish I could just say, I don't know, I guess you can say, hey Google, remind me to do this. But that scares me, that it would even be listening. All right, so I've switched my brush. I want to get up close and personal to this pot. Trying to color in between those lines, but just see how this pot is that first pot we did, it gets pushed back. I love it. Love it, love it. And the last thing that we'll do is come back and just clean up all of our black. In the instructions, I said just straight burnt sienna, but I gotta have something to do a highlight with. And I'm just gonna go with a honey brown right around here. It's because I got some on my plate. Yeah, need a little honey brown in there. And this is also where I took a little bit of our metallic. See that little spot of gold? Not clean in my brush. And you really won't be able to see a lot of this until it's dry, but just kind of gives it a little bit of shimmer. You could go crazy with it, or as they say, less is more. So before we do this pot, let's work here. These are bricks, so we need some cement to hold them up. And what we're going to use, I am going to go down to even smaller. I'm going to go down to my Z20, wet it. And if you've got some white left and a little bit of Payne's gray, that's what we need. Now, I want this a little bit darker than lighter because if we get too light, it just doesn't look right. So, saying about right there. And this is where we come in and we just kind of shape those bricks. Now, you can see there are some like natural lines here. And we do want to make sure that we get some of those lines. And again, I don't think I put those in the pattern. Because I knew you guys could do this. Look at it coming together. Sometimes I do not like painting things over and over and over again, but this one I really enjoy. Now, I don't have one there, so I'm going to put a little line there, maybe a little line right there. And as always, you can kind of see that I don't color between the lines. I went outside my line. That's all right. We'll just put that right there. We're going to put another one right there. Divide that brick in half. Come right along here. Come right along there. Some of these you won't see very good. Well, that could be one there. And we'll put one right there. Don't forget about your sides. And then we'll start on this side. And because I went gray there, got some short bricks. I guess I could use, a little bit on the light side there, a little bit. I could use, I think it's called, I have to look it up. I get them backwards, retarder or extender. Maybe it's extender that I could probably use to keep these a little bit moister. Some people will, they have a big tray and it's got wet paper towels on it. Might have to try that one of these days just because I dry out so quickly. And again, wherever you feel like you want these bricks, just go for it. You may do something totally different. I was actually originally going to have bricks coming out, but I quickly changed my mind on that one. I need a tiny bit more white. You're going to love this last pot. Oh my gosh. Let me save the best for last. Alright, more Payne's gray. If your paint gets the skin on it, if you just poke right through it, you'll get your paint. And I'm just painting because I can see my sides over here. I will get those other sides later. And we'll paint one there, and then I'll paint one here. There we go. I think I'm going to put one right there. Or we cool? Are you happy with those? I got a little sloppy there. I'm all right with it. Okay, one of my favorite colors coming right up. I'm going to clean out my brush because I don't know what I have in it. And I'm going to use the 1/2 inch brush. All right, pot number 2. This is one of the things I think it makes it really, really pop. And again, I didn't list what my shadow color is, but I think that my highlight is probably going to be, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know yet. Okay. So straight, oh, I don't even know if I told you this earlier. Peacock teal. Beautiful, beautiful color. I just don't remember. And we're just laying that right in there. Isn't it pretty? I'm going to go all around the outside here. Get as close to those lines as possible. Now I'm going to switch. Make sure my brush is clean. Almost done. And I'm just going to come right in here. Right up next to those bricks. When you do, it just pushes it back. Now I am putting quite a bit of paint on here. One reason is because I got a super small brush. Let's not get crazy, Kathy. And I just want to come in and move some of that paint around in here. And before this gets dry, I want to take a paper towel like I did before. And I just want to come in here and take some of that paint off and just kind of give it that weathered look right up in there. Again, I might have to do that again, but we definitely want some of that paint to show through. I am going to pick up a tiny bit of white and mix it with the peacock teal. And I'm going to go right in here. All right, and I need a little bit of a shadow. I am going to use a burnt sienna. Don't get too carried away with this. We just need a little bit. Yeah, we're close to being done. There are a couple other little things we've got to do, but I'm not cleaning my brush because I want to mix that blue in there to make sure this is what I want. Yeah, that'll do. We're just going underneath, not really underneath, but right around where we just put that white. and wipe out my brush. And I just have a little napkin sometimes that I hold in my hand and just wipe. You'll see me do that a lot when we're out. Okay. I'm wiping. All right, I'm going to wet and wipe that little brush. I'm going to go into a tiny bit of Payne's Gray. That's how tiny, and now I'm going to wipe it off on my brush. Okay, so there is hardly any on there. And there's just a couple places that I want to put this, because this pot looks like brand new and it's been sitting outside. So we're going to come right along and just, this is dry brush. We're just going to dry brush whatever's on your brush. And we're just going to pull that up. Do I need to do that anywhere else? I think that's about it there. I could maybe just whatever's on my brush right in there. All right, now we need lamp black. Lamp black. We just need a tiny bit of it. When I say tiny bit, you guys know what I mean. I mean, like, I only do a drop. As you guys know, I don't like to waste paint. All right. Dirty brush. I'm going to start here. Yeah, I want to start here at the top. We're going to just clean this up a little bit. Very carefully. You need a smaller brush. Just use the smaller brush, whatever works for you. I'm going to stick with the number 4 here. All right. This one's not too bad. So we're just going to go right along and clean these up now. These are the first 2 that I wanted to do because I need those for this very last step to be completely dry. And we'll come down here. Clean that up a little bit. And then just right along in here. Now you may have done such a great job that you don't even need to clean the inside of your pots up. But I need to clean mine up. I feel like there needs to be 2 little eyes in there, huh? All right. Very last step, and we're going to need the number 4. And I need it super, super clean. All right. And the reason for that, I'm going to take white and a speck. When I say a speck, I mean a speck. I didn't want to add like a whole new color. And so that's even too much color. So half a speck, not a whole speck. So I'm adding more white. Now, let's see, where is my original? Because I think in my original, I did a better job of the water. So let me just grab that. Yes, I did. It's the angle of the water. So what we're going to do is we're going to start some water just flowing out of here. And I don't want to start it too far back, but I'm just taking and I'm laying paint. I got quite a bit of paint and it has a little bit of blue, and I'm telling you, it's too much of the blue. And I even added more white, but I didn't mix it. I just wanted just a titch of blue, and I just did not want. And we're just going to come right down here, and we're going to have this water just kind of trickling in. Kind of stops there, and then it splashes around a little bit, and then it comes out and comes right down in here and some splashes. I almost think I have way too much paint on my brush. I can go back and I want to start that a little bit further back. There you go. So you don't know where it's really coming from. Now, if I need to clean up some areas, which I feel like I do, I can wait till that dries, but I'm just going to push this water back a little bit. And how am I doing that? I'm just adding a little bit of paint, yellow ochre, yellow, that helps. I can also wipe out my brush and then just come in here and move this paint a little bit. It looks like it's splashed around, thin it out, make it move. There we go. Yay! I'm loving this painting. It's one of my favorite paintings. I hope that you have enjoyed this painting today and that you will join us again for another masterpiece in progress. You guys have a great day and stay safe. Thanks.